now with Jacco Van Loon. He's the director of the Keele Observatory. Thank you so much for joining us, Jacco. Now, critics of these billionaire ventures into space aren't necessarily against the concept of space exploration and research. They just question whether or not these individuals with vast resources could be spending their money better on problems here on Earth. What's your view? Should they be looking at problems closer to home?
Yeah, it's good that you do distinguish between space tourism as just one aspect of space industry and space industry and exploration as a whole, from which we benefit hugely because of the extreme conditions in space and because of the difficulty, technological difficulty, engineering difficulty of getting there. But as far as space tourism is concerned, you should understand at least that this is money spent by individuals, private money, not taxpayers' money, to companies who make a profit out of that. But those companies drive a lot of the technology. If you look, for instance, at how SpaceX is recycling its rockets, in ways by bringing the rockets down to Earth and using them again, in ways which will also benefit all of space exploration. It makes it cheaper for them to fly tourists into space, but it does drive the technology. Whether these tourists could spend their money better on other things, they have a lot of money. Even if they buy a ticket into space, I'm sure they're not bankrupt. So if they wanted to spend money on other things, they still can. Now, many tourists who have been in space have come back loving the Earth as a planet even more than they may have done before. And so they are more likely to actually also use money to spend on other useful things. And there are many examples of wealthy people that do that. That is different from whether you agree with individual people accumulating wealth in the first place. That's a different debate.
At the moment, a ticket to go into space on Virgin Galactic goes for around $250,000. We understand similar companies are going to be charging similar amounts. So really, space tourism is just the purview of the ultra wealthy on this Earth right now. At what point will ordinary people be able to afford to head into space?
Yeah, this is true. Of course, that's been true also for air flight, and even now, not everybody can afford a plane ticket. The price will come down as more tourists will go into space. So there's more demand. The technology becomes even more efficient, so the price comes down. But it will always be expensive for at least a very long time. And you can then ask the question not so much about whether wealthy people should have the privilege to go into space, but also whether it is actually good to increase the travel into space, both from a pollution point of view, but also from a point of view of how crowded and busy it's getting in the Earth orbit. So there are other issues that you can worry about and that may need to be regulated in some way than simply the price of the tickets today.
Okay, so overall, you think space tourism is a net benefit rather than a net loss to humanity?
Overall, it is a net benefit, and especially on the longer term. We are still in pioneering times, so there is to some extent more investment perhaps than returns. But that's the case with all new technology, and when we start to do new things, it first requires a huge investment before we actually see the benefits. And you should see it as part of space exploration in general, from which we can get all sort of benefits from the technology that needs to be developed, like you mentioned, like solar panels, energy generation. Being in a confined place for a long time, you have to come up with lots of solutions for problems that actually we are also dealing with on Earth. So in that sense, it does help. And it brings it in the news. We're talking about it now. And although some people might have issues with it, other people find it inspiring. And having sent people to the moon, you can also ask, well, only 12 people have walked on the moon. It's not fair to all those other people that haven't had a chance to do that. But it inspires people, even if they don't get a chance to do it themselves.
Okay, Jacco Van Loon from the Keele Observatory. Thank you so much again for shedding some light on this emerging industry.